My guest this time, Gerald Celente. Gerald Celente is the publisher of the TrendsJournal, a journal that goes all around the world. That is one of the most fascinating reads you'll ever see. The TrendsJournal. You can find more about it at trendsjournal.com. Gerald Celente's TrendsJournal, said to be the only magazine in the world that pinpoints how today's current events form future trends and how they will affect your business. Gerald Celente says he's a political atheist, agenda and advertising free, this journal is, beholding to no one, analysis and forecasts of critical socioeconomic, financial, political, economic, business, etc., etc., etc. Gerald Celente, welcome back. Nice to have you back.
Thanks for having me, Orv.
It's good of you to take some time to be with me on this Sunday morning now.
Well, I appreciate you having me.
Every time I see a television news clip about a riot or a demonstration somewhere, I think of you because of what you have said and it implanted in my mind. When people have nothing else to lose, they lose it.
That's right. When people lose everything and have nothing else to lose, they lose it. You know, it's something I heard as a young kid when I was growing up in the Bronx. And it always stuck in my mind. You know, so people wonder why people behave like they do. Well, when you have nothing, you know, you just go for it, whether it's no money, no life, no job, no future, and you feel there's no hope. That's when it goes out of control.
And there's a whole bunch of that, apparently, around the world.
Well, take a look. Pick the country. You know, right now what's going on, of course, there's a lot of talk about what's going on in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And when we sent out the TrendsJournal a few weeks ago, we had what's called a global nomic page. And in the centerfold, we had all of the hot spots, all of the protests, civil wars going on around the world. And then what we did was we picked the four corners of the world: Thailand, Venezuela, Ukraine, and Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
And now, of course, Nigeria is in the news. They've abducted these 300 young girls, and everybody's outraged. And we wrote about it, what was really going on there before any of this happened. This is a disgustingly corrupt, immoral government that's been going on now for decades.
It is new.
Nothing new. This is atrocity going on. Yeah, guess what? There are atrocities going on in a lot of places, but if you look behind the scenes, and of course not making excuses for this criminality, but just to put it into context here, you know, this is a country of 174 million people.
Yeah.
It's a country very, 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 very rich in natural resources such as oil.
Mm-hmm.
A huge exporter.
Yeah.
And they got about 20 billionaires there. Over 40% of the population is living on less than $1 a day. So this has been going on since the end of colonialism. You know, when Nigeria became a country, like so many of the others. After the colonial powers leave, they break up into anarchy again from the destruction left from those that left. So, but what I'm trying to say, Orv, is how the people are getting a one-sided message, and oh, how we have to intervene, and oh, how we have, what we? You know, we got enough problems going on over here. And I read the headlines, you know, that are making the news, you know, bring back our girls, Michelle Obama hanging up the sign, you know. Look at the poverty in this country. Who cares about all the homeless kids in this country? Who cares about all of the people that are in food stamps, the tens of millions of people that can't get jobs? Bring back our girls. How about taking 10-block walk from the White House and seeing all the poverty around you over there?
You don't have to go far.
Don't have to go too far. So what I'm saying is, it's the propaganda going on, and the propaganda machines are running at full tilt. This reminds me of the time when, I'm sure you remember, we're probably both old enough to remember, Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction and ties to Al-Qaeda. And that next mushroom cloud you see...
Gerald, yeah, you're right.
It never stops.
First of all, you seemed critical of the Democrats, and now you're seeming critical of the Republicans.
Well, I'm critical of murderers and thieves.
Ah. Now, when you talk about the propaganda machine, are you referring to the media or are you referring to the governmental officials?
It starts with the government, and then it goes down to what I call the prostitutes, the media.
Yeah.
They just carry the do what the John tells them to do. And when I say murderers and thieves, I'm not being sarcastic. To me, they're no different than the Bloods and the Crips. As I said, Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction and ties to Al-Qaeda. The United States and its coalition of the willing killed over 1 million people, according to reports, in Iraq on a war based on lies. And then, of course, there was President Obama's humanitarian mission in Libya, which ostensibly killed some 30,000 people. And then, of course, there's the ongoing war in Afghanistan and murders again. And then there's just drone strikes. They're always getting those suspected militants, and every now and then a wedding party or innocent people get in the way. So when I say murderers, I mean it. And when I say thieves, I mean that as well. Too big to fail? We have to steal out the money from the taxpayer to bail out the bankers that made bad bets? So when you look at what's going on and you look at the mobs, the mafia that's in control, that's where I see the government going and taking the people. And it's down a path of more destruction and a worse economy.
One of the features in your current edition of the Trends Journal is titled, "Washington is Driving the World to the Final War."
That's also Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, the former Assistant Treasury Secretary under Ronald Reagan. He also writes for us. And we're both in total agreement with essentially what Einstein warned about. I don't know how the Third World War will be fought, but the fourth one will be fought with sticks and stones. And when you go back, Orv, and you look at history, and you look at World War I, that's what started the real downward decline. It was a totally unnecessary war, started by mad men and mad women. As kids we always learned, they assassinated the Archduke Ferdinand. Oh, come on, can you come up with a better story than that one? And it's always about the same thing. It all comes back to money and the bottom line.
Comes back to money. You have a feature in this journal that says, "Bring on peace, bring on prosperity."
Yes, and people often say to me, "Mr. Celente, you show all the problems. How about some solutions?" So I believe I have a solution to bring on peace and bring on prosperity. And I'm starting an OccupyPeace.us movement. And it's to bring home all the troops, no foreign entanglements. I'm up here in colonial Kingston, New York. It's the first capital of New York State. There's more pre-Revolutionary War buildings here than any place else in the country, including the 1777 Senate House. George Washington's farewell address, no foreign entanglements. Benjamin Franklin, Jefferson, Adams, Madison, go up and down the list of the founding fathers. No foreign entanglements. Haven't we had enough losses, enough deaths, and enough raping of our treasury that President Dwight D. Eisenhower warned us about when he warned us about the military-industrial complex taking over the country?
Wait a minute. You seem to be saying something positive about one of our presidents.
Actually, people asked me, who's the president that I admire the most, and it is Eisenhower.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, when I was a little kid, we moved to Yonkers in the Bronx, which is right next to it, and at 10 years old, I saw Eisenhower campaigning in Getty Square in Yonkers. And a bunch of kids in those days, you could get on a bus, as a little kid. You didn't have to have, a soccer mom watching after you. And I remember seeing him. I also saw Nixon and Kennedy. Actually, I touched Kennedy's hand in the motorcade as he was going away.
Wow.
And so I've always had this interest. And I admire Eisenhower the most because, to me, he was the last real man. And I'm not speaking about Kennedy. He was assassinated, so I don't know how far that was going to go or what direction. But when I say that, here's a man that was the five-star general who supreme commander of the Allied forces during World War II. A two-term president, a man that saw death and destruction at the highest level of the 20th century, and he knew the horrors of war. And during the Eisenhower administration, there were no wars. And he warns us that the military-industrial complex is robbing the nation of the genius of the scientists, the sweat of the laborers, and the future of the children. Look at the brain power, manpower, and mind power that has gone into the military-industrial complex with all these sophisticated weapons. Could you imagine if that energy was rediverted
towards
into
peace,
creating a higher civilization?
Yeah. We're going to run out of time. A couple other topics I want to be sure to cover. One of the features in your current journal, whoever wins, you lose. You're talking about the next presidential election.
Exactly. I mean, what are they doing now? It looks like Hillary Clinton. Great, another Clinton. Can't wait. Oh, the guy that brought us NAFTA, deregulated the communication industry. Hey, you like them GMOs and bovine growth hormones? That's Bill Clinton. I mean, I could go on. And now they're pumping up Jeb Bush. And you can see the propaganda machines already starting with that. They're trying to make George W. Bush look legitimate. People are forgetting that he was booed off the stage on Inauguration Day. So it's more of the same families, different names. That's about it. And by the way, if you want to see the propaganda at work, you remember when George Bush, the major newspapers, Financial Times, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, on the same day, showed half-page and quarter-page reproductions of George W. Bush's paintings. And so what they're doing is they're bringing out George more and more to set it up for Jeb. So whoever wins, it's more of the same but worse.
My guest is Gerald Celente, the publisher of the TrendsJournal. And Gerald, the other topic I want to be sure to cover, let's talk about it quickly, your conference that's coming up, History Before It Happens. You've got a special event that you're going to stage.
Yes, this coming August, and it's up here in Colonial Kingston. And essentially what I'm going to do is teach people how to forecast trends. And of course, I've written the books Trend Tracking and Trends 2000, and we have the TrendsJournal. And when you think about it, Orv, you go to college and they have a lot of history courses, but nobody teaches you how to look ahead. So that's what this is about, how to prepare for the future, survive and thrive.
And if we want to learn more about it, we can get it online?
Yeah, TrendsJournal.com, TrendsJournal.com.
Gerald Celente, my guest. Gerald, thanks again. Sure neat to have you, and let's do it again down the road.
Oh, I'd love to. Thanks so much. All the best.
Thank you.